And first of all, Ria Chatterjee from ITV. Ria.
Hi, this is a question for you, Michael Gove. Professor Neil Ferguson, a leading scientist advising the government, has warned that the COVID-19 infection rate in the UK could remain high for weeks and weeks. The weather is nice this weekend. People will be tempted to go out. People will go out. What is the government planning to do to make sure people stay at home? Because some people watching this broadcast will be asking if words are enough.
Well, thank you very much, Ria, for your question. I hope that I and certainly Steve have been clear. When we look at the death rate, when we look at the number of increasing fatalities, when we consider the pressure on our NHS, everyone has to ask themselves the question: what am I doing in order to relieve pressure on the NHS? How am I helping in this shared national effort? All of us have loved ones, all of us have relatives who are at risk as a result of the spread of this disease. If we want them to be safe, then we want the NHS to be as resilient as possible, and that means observing these guidelines. I know that lockdown is challenging. I know it's very difficult, particularly, for families with children. It's a challenge, but people must, at every stage, respect these guidelines, because that's the only way of making sure that we restrict the spread of the disease. And of course, there are provisions in place, legal provisions in place, if people deliberately flout these guidelines. The police have instructions to engage, to explain, to encourage, and if necessary, to enforce the rules. But it's vital that all of us recognise that if we weigh up an hour or two outside and weigh it against the lives of those we love and the lives of those on the NHS front line, then it should be clear, I hope to all, that we should follow the advice. Steve, is there anything you want to say?
So my colleagues, my friends working in the NHS and the front line would absolutely plead to every member of the public to follow the instructions that they have been provided with. Their safety, their lives depends upon that. And of course, beyond the NHS, it's the lives and the health of all of us, our friends, our relatives, your friends, your relatives, that depend upon us following these instructions. And we know it can work. We absolutely know that this can work. And so, as I've said many times before, this is everybody's chance to save a life, to ensure that a ventilator that might have been used isn't used. And we need to stick with this. It's tough, it's hard for everybody, I realise that. But this is the time that we need to make sure that we don't, we stick to that guidance and we don't deviate from it.
Is there anything more that you wanted to follow up on, Ria?
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Next we go to Palab Ghosh from the BBC. Palab.
Mr. Gove, do you have any indications